What happens when an illegal detective tries to solve crime using unusual and even sometimes inhumane methods? Will he be able to track down the bad guys? Or will he end up with more felony charges than the criminals? Today we put that theory to the test in a game called Shadows of Doubt. Shadows of Doubt is an immersive detective stealth sandbox game that throws you into a procedurally generated city to solve crimes or commit them yourself. Use state-of-the-art technology to gain evidence or good old-fashioned violence to beat your way to justice. Can I be the city's greatest detective? Let's find out. The story starts in my apartment, alone. I set an alarm for around 9 AM to give off the illusion that I have responsibilities to wake up for, like I didn't just down 2 Everclears the night before. My first stop this morning is to the nearby diner. I picked up a donut and a coffee, a breakfast for champions. Since I was already there, I decided to check the job listings for some work, when one listing caught my eye. I called the number provided and my orders were to meet the client at a hotel and ask about nah. I replied with nah, I'm good. Wow, funny fun joke. Thank you. Thank you, everybody. Thank you. I make my way to the Dominguez View Hotel, meet up with the client, and they give me the rundown. Someone messed with them, and now he wants us to find their apartment and vandalize it. This type of gig wasn't really in the detective job description, but 20 bucks is 20 bucks. The only leads we have is that the target is average build, has blue eyes, and works as a shopkeeper. Not a lot to go off, but I'm a pretty smart guy. I could figure it out. I decided to take a look at the shopkeepers in the city, and out of sheer luck, the first shop I investigated was the one he worked at. I checked the employee board and found our guy, Matt's Wood. Ironically enough, one of the few leads I had was blue eyes. He was wearing shades in the photo. I put his name down in the city directory and found his place of residence, 701 Yellow Robe Towers. I make it to the apartment complex and take the elevator to the 7th floor, when all of a sudden, I get an Amber Alert on my sidekick. Oh, not an Amber Alert, someone fucking died. I chose to finish the first job before heading to the site of the murder, because I prioritize money over the well-being of others. I knocked on his front door and sadly enough, he answered. I was hoping he wasn't home so I could destroy his property in peace. He was a little apprehensive at first, so I decided to use some of my coercion skills. Get used to seeing this alert. This was my first vandalism job, so I wasn't really sure how to go about it. I broke the windows and destroyed anything that looked expensive. I noticed Matt starting to regain consciousness, but instead of beating him again, I just handcuffed him. I'm a detective, not a criminal. Anyways, back to the vandalizing. There were no more things to throw, so I punched out a window and started bleeding profusely. I'm not a doctor. I didn't know this shit would happen. When everything was destroyed, I took a photo for proof and went to go turn in the case. Surprisingly enough, the client only lived a few floors down. I slid the photos under the door and got my money. After my felonious fiasco, I headed to the scene of the murder, still bleeding profusely by the way. I snuck my way inside and discovered a horrific sight, the body of a female at the entrance of the apartment, her body twisted and mangled like an Auntie Anne's pretzel. Through further investigation, we found out that she was stabbed to death with a sharp object, and the killer drew a heart around the body with lipstick. There were also writings on the wall that read, Anacita and N forever, N probably being the first initial of the killer. This had all the makings of a crime of passion, so I appropriately dubbed this killer the Rizz Reaper. While searching the apartment, I found the victim's wallet and work ID. Anacita Gonzalez was our victim. I scanned fingerprints and shoe sizes and found 2 matches that were not the victims. I also checked every room for any money or sellable items I could borrow. Was it immoral? It's okay, she's dead. Before leaving, I wanted to check her computer for any suspicious emails. Nothing really caught my eye except for one message, a new match from a dating site she used. This had to be the breakthrough in the case. So I opened the message to see, oh my god, it's fucking Matt's Wood. With all the evidence gathered, it was time to chase a lead. And of course, I started with a second visit to that boy Matt's. I made it back to Yellow Robe Towers so fast that my dried blood was still on the lobby floor. Matt's answered the door and I think the brain trauma really got to him because he was not mad at me at all. I think he just forgot what I did to him a couple minutes ago. But when I told him I was arresting him on suspicion, he called me a slur and attacked me. So of course I had to defend myself. I rechecked every area of the apartment to see if I missed anything related to the case, but there was nothing. His fingerprints and shoe size didn't even match the ones I found at the crime scene. The lead was another dead end. The only certainty was the permanent brain damage Matt's Wood sustained today. The next place I checked was Anacita's workplace. I sabotaged the cameras and got into the back office. On the computer, I checked the employee database for any names that started with the letter N. Unfortunately, we got nothing and we were back to square one. I wandered the streets lost and out of ideas. So I did the only thing that can get my mind back on the straight and narrow. When I was geeking hard, I remembered that back at the crime scene, there was a camera pointed straight to the apartment. I ran back to the hotel with this newly found information. The camera room was in the lobby, but the only thing standing in my way was the old guy working at the bar. I waited for him to leave and checked the surveillance cameras, and this is what we found. A person of interest on the 4th floor at 8:46 a.m., which was approximately the time the crime was committed. I got the face image and put it on my evidence board when all of a sudden, Unc was ready to throw hands. Now let me tell you, this guy was an Avengers level threat. He was putting in work with that cane. I was no match for him and he beat me unconscious. All good though, because we got what we came for. I showed the picture to witnesses at the hotel, and they say the suspect was seen around Chavez Terrace, another apartment complex. I got to Chavez and went door to door like a Jehovah's Witness, until someone finally identified our killer, Nina Yellowrobe, and she lived on the 1st floor. It was time to go from Sherlock Holmes to Dog the Bounty Hunter. I lured Nina with a knock on the door, and as soon as she unlocked it, I quickly scanned her fingerprints and checked her shoe size. Both were a match. I was borrowing some of her valuables when she woke up in a frenzy, and I'm not gonna lie, she beat the shit out of me. I was ready for violence, but I didn't know I was up against Prime Mike Tyson. When I started bleeding, I ran to the exit to use my door slam tactic, only to find it locked. I ran to the kitchen in a panic and knew that it was now or never. I threw 2 punches straight to her dome, and she was out instantly. I swiftly arrested her and continued to take her stuff. I will use her money to pay for my hospital bills. It's only right. I filled in the case form and healed up before turning in the case. Now it was time to see if we got the right person. I guess fingerprints aren't a reliable source of evidence, and I also forgot to look for the murder weapon, but at least we barely passed. I walked back to my apartment, took a fully clothed shower, and turned on my alarm for the next day, to do it all again tomorrow. I forgot to untie Matt's wood. It's tomorrow, and we're doing it all again. I'm back at my favorite diner, looking for more jobs. Today we're gonna dabble in a little corporate espionage. I call the number, and the client tells me to pick up another call from a booth down the block. The guy wants me to steal a document from the target. They give me more details in a briefcase next to the phone booth. All these steps to be discreet, and this dude leaves the fucking briefcase outside? Now when they said details about the target, all we got was a telephone number and their body type, which was muscular. A weird list of leads for sure. Thankfully, if we got their phone number, we can get their address as well. So I ran back to my apartment. I realized I forgot to lock my doors, but luckily no one broke in. Once there, I called the phone number of the target. Now we need to stall time for the call to be tracked. So I pretended to be an Indian telemarketer. I will not be doing the Indian accent because that would be racist, and I am not that. After the call, I went to the basement of the apartment and hacked into the telephone router. From there, we could see where my phone call went. Muse Suites. I head inside and go straight down to the telephone router again to pinpoint the exact room the call was answered from. 302. I knock on the door and someone answers. A man named Levon Good. I asked to come in and take a look around, and he told me he doesn't let people off the street into his house. You never get to see your character in this game, but from his response, I guess we look fucking homeless. Not that there's anything wrong with that though. I fully support homelessness. Anyways, I pay this guy $50 and he lets me in his home. Now I'm no serial killer, but this guy's making it
real easy to just...
After successfully infiltrating the apartment, it was time to work my magic. And by magic, I mean straight up robbery. But while I was robbing, I found Levon's work ID. He was a medical officer, which was the job of the partner of the target. Now I was certain we were at the right address. So I started searching for the documents. Nothing. I found nothing and I was looking for 15 minutes. I thought maybe the target had the documents on them, but they were at work. So I had to kill some time. Now you're probably wondering what are some fun things to do while you're in the city. Well, let me show you. I went to the sync clinic and entered this machine that looks like one of those medieval torture devices. Once you're inside the machine, they drill something called a sync disc inside your head, and that gives you upgrades like more inventory or more money for jobs. As you can tell, there are not a lot of fun things to do in the city. At least we got pool though. I returned to Muse Suites and back into the target's apartment, this time without consent. I saw Levon's partner was home, so I rushed him with handcuffs. Now can you guess why I tried to handcuff this gentleman? Give him a good look and think, what reason would I have to attack this guy? It's pretty obvious if you didn't notice by now. Yep, that's right. It's because he's muscular, our main lead for the target. I detained him and found out his name is Cordell Franks. Surely if I search him, he'll have the documents, right? No documents. I searched it up and apparently a lot of people were having the problem with the documents not spawning. And I guess I was one of those unfortunate souls. So with that, the case went cold. I peacefully made my way out the apartment, being careful not to disturb the rest of the residents. I lost the footage of the murder alert, but good news, we got a new killer on the streets. Let's go to 602 Yellow Robe Towers. On my way there, I wondered how much rent is in this city if there was a murder every day. I can't really complain though, because that means I get more work, and more work means more money. But shout out to all the murderers out there. You're making me rich. Now let's assess the crime scene. I found the body in the bedroom of the apartment. There was some weird circle drawn around the body, like they were trying to stop a sea bear attack. Also inside the circle was a crumpled note with the killer's Let's Play YouTube channel written on it. A shameless plug, really. I found out the victim's name is Brooke Johnson, and they were shot to death with a pistol. When I entered the bathroom, there was a sign on the wall that said BJ paid. A little unusual this was written in the bathroom. Either the killer purposely did this, or they had IBS. Near the entrance, I found pistol cartridges on the floor. While scanning for fingerprints, I found like 5 different types of prints. I guess the whole fucking city was in this apartment unit. I looked through the victim's documents and saw that she had a spouse. They were now my #1 suspect because every good detective knows that it's always the spouse. Before leaving, I found an engagement ring in one of the desks, and seeing that they will not be needing that anymore, I took it as compensation for my amazing detective work. We had many leads to go off of, but the one that sparked my interest the most was the crumpled note. After looking at it for a few minutes, I realized that it was just a name scrambled up like a word puzzle. The killer is either very confident in their abilities or very autistic. Now we can appropriately name the case. Let's go with Wordle Warfare. To solve the word puzzle, I went to a city directory and looked for any last name with 6 letters. Once I got it down to a handful, I used the scrambled letters to find a match. And I came up with A. Rivero, who lived at 202 Muse Suites, so that was our next stop. When I knocked on the door, a guy named Sergio answered. I asked him if I can go inside, and he said yes. No wonder people keep dying in this city. People just let random strangers in their homes. I saw another person in the bedroom and asked them what their name is. They told me to keep my nose out their business. I am a random man in your apartment watching you sleep. I think it's a little too late for that. Doesn't matter too much because I go through their private documents and find their name anyways. Alejandro Rivero, the same name we got on the crumpled note. All we needed to do now is link Alejandro to the crime. When I asked her if she knew the victim, she told me that they worked together. Now I've had my fair share of annoying coworkers, but murder seems a bit extreme. I couldn't find matching prints, but I did find a size 9 shoe print, same ones at the crime scene. How salty would you be if you were falsely committed for a crime, just for having the same shoe size? I make a big discovery when I find 2 pistols in the desk drawers, one pistol having Alejandro's prints all over it. When they fell asleep, I searched Alejandro's body and found the same pistol ammo as the ones at the crime scene. I don't even want to know where she was keeping these. We had all the evidence to get a conviction now. She saw what looked like her sleep paralysis demon standing over her, but in reality, it was the homeless guy cosplaying a detective. I handcuffed her to the side of the bed and went to City Hall to turn in the case. We got a solid 4 out of 5 and a plus 250 on our social credit. Xi Jinping would be proud. Thanks for watching. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. And I'll see you in the next video.